My final curation surveys some of Natalie Diaz's work and places it within the context of the confessional movement, as well as relating it to some of the other poets we've read this semester. What I find so interesting about Diaz's poetry is how by writing from the perspective of traditional minorities, a woman and a Native American, she actually manages to reach the majority. I'm going to start by reading one of Diaz's poems, Why I Hate Raisins. This poem reflects back on the speaker as a young girl, so it's a great place to start. And is it only the mouth and belly which are injured by hunger and thirst? Mencius. Love is a pound of sticky raisins, packed tight in black and white government boxes, the day we had no groceries. I told my mom I was hungry. She gave me the whole bright box, USDA stamped like a fist on the side. I ate them all in 10 minutes. Ate too many, too fast. It wasn't long before those old grapes set like black clay at the bottom of my belly, making it ache and swell. I complained, I hate raisins. I just wanted a sandwich like other kids. Well, that's all we've got, my mom sighed. And what other kids? Everyone but me, I told her. She said, you mean the white kids. You want to be a white kid? Well, too bad, 'cause you're my kid. I cried, at least the white kids get a sandwich. At least the white kids don't get the shit. That's when she slapped me. Left me holding my mouth and stomach, devoured by shame. I still hate raisins, but not for the crooked commodity lines we stood in to get them, winding around and in the tribal gymnasium. Not for the awkward cardboard boxes we carried them home in. Not for the shits, but how they distended my belly. I hate raisins because now I know my mom was hungry that day too, and I ate all the raisins. Diaz grew up in the Fort Mojave Indian Village in Needles, California. She played professional basketball for several years around the world, in Europe and Asia, before returning to the U.S. to complete an MFA in poetry and fiction. She currently lives in Mojave Valley, Arizona, and works with the last elder speakers of the Mojave language in an effort to preserve their language. Diaz directs the language revitalization program at her home reservation, Fort Mojave. When My Brother Was an Aztec, the collection all of these poems come from, is her first published poetry collection. Next, I'm actually going to read a poem that isn't by Diaz. It's by County Cullen, whom we read in the second week of class. The poem is called Incident. Once riding in old Baltimore, heart filled, head filled with glee, I saw a Baltimorean keep looking straight at me. Now I was 8 and very small, and he was no whit bigger, and so I smiled, but he poked out his tongue and called me nigger. I saw the whole of Baltimore from May until December. Of all the things that happened there, that's all that I remember. Cullen's poem is about the corruption of innocence through racism and the permanence that a single memory can have. These two subjects reminded me both of the first poem I read by Diaz, Why I Hate Raisins, as well as another one I talk about in my curation, Hand Me Down Halloween. A lot of Diaz's poems deal with race and her identity as Mojave. She often struggles with her indigenous heritage and the way she has been treated by white people because of it. This tension from her youth is at odds with the respect for her culture that she possesses as an adult. The images of this culture, be they positive or negative, fill many of her poems. We see Native American stereotypes like Tonto, traditional foods like tortillas and masa, and colorful, yet often bleak, depictions of red wine. Diaz is a contemporary poet. She's active now, but her poetry bears a close resemblance to the mid-century confessional movement from the 1900s. This movement attracted a lot of female writers, as well as others who wished to address social issues with their work. In addition to her racial identity, Diaz often writes about her brother, who is addicted to meth, and his relationship to his family, particularly their parents. To conclude, I'm going to read Diaz's poem, As a Consequence of My Brother Stealing All the Life Force. This one is filled with imagery and metaphor. For more on that, continue reading through my curation. My parents live without light, groping, never reading, never saying, you are lovely. A broken Borges and a gouged St. Lucia, hand in hand, shuffling from the kitchen linoleum to the living room rug. My father's pants are wobbling silhouettes. My mother is bluer than her nightgown. One says rosaries to become a candle. The other tries hard to be a Coleman fishing lantern, on the bank of a river 20 years away, watching a boy he loves stab a hook through a worm. My parents eat matches like there's no tomorrow, but just because they choke on today doesn't mean they aren't proactive. They're building a funeral pyre out of their house. It's hard to visit. We are always digging each other out from an intimate sort of rubble. I recognize some things: my brother's high school football helmet, first communion pin, ceramic handprint, green plastic army men with noses and arms chopped off, a handheld propane torch. So much more has been disguised by being dismantled and fiendishly reassembled at 2 a.m. Lives, guitar amps, the electric Virgin Mary picture with a corona that changes color, deals with God, the Electrolux canister vac. Mom and Dad snap matchsticks between their tender teeth, and I taste a green clock at the back of my throat. The ticking is cold or sour or really a pickaxe. Worry tastes so dirty when it's spread out like a banquet. My brother the myrrh-eater, lost, fucked up maggot, following the wrong star, licking his sequined lips, which can't shine in the shade of this growing pyre. My dad puts gasoline through a green garden hose, siphons it from his own work truck so my brother can't steal it. My mom tries to dress the place up, riddled doilies, the burning hurt Jesus with eyes that used to follow us around the room until someone plucked out each bright circle. Now my fingers slip down into the slick holes in Jesus' face. My mom can't wash the windows because my brother ate them. She knocks ribbons on the wood stack, hangs blackened spoons like wind chimes, and says, "What can you expect from a pyre but a pyre?" When I visit, I hate searching for the door. Usually my brother's boot print on my dad's rib. Once it was a hole in my mom's chest that changed her into a sad guitar for 3 years. These are more like exits than doors. They are difficult to get through. The walls have been mortared with grief, dark enough to make blindness a gift. We don't have to look each other in the eyes. It's crazy how loud it is inside a funeral pyre. We don't talk much. We can't hear each other over so much stumbling. When I do hear, the only thing my mom says is, "How much longer?" I prefer that to what she wrote in fluorescent paint on the ceiling last weekend. What does he do with all the light bulbs? We don't talk about crystal meth in my parents' house, particularly since it's been converted to a funeral pyre. My dad quit speaking long ago. He only sings these days, not with words, rather with small strikes and sparks. Those quick flashes of fire that seem to satisfy my mother's questions.